And can we first go through the support that the government is giving business and to people as well?
Yeah, we can indeed, Pete, and you've gone through a little bit of that earlier, but it is worth just reiterating what support is out there for business in Sydney and also across the Victorian lockdowns as well. The reason for it is because the country can afford it. The country is in much better shape than what was ever anticipated when first Australia went through the coronavirus recession last year. The bounce back has been quite astonishing. We saw that in the employment numbers yesterday, but if you go in particular for that business support, what's out there, so what you're going to see is somewhere between the best part of $1,500 a week and $10,000 a week. Now, it's significant, but what you've also got to prove as a business is that you have basically had a significant downturn in your turnover, and you must be in one of those affected areas. Now, the payments are going to be made now, not after 4 weeks, but after 14 days. And so one of the important parts about this is really giving many businesses the ability to either pay wages or indeed to pay rents if and when they fall through. This is the individual support, and again, for people in affected areas, there is a negotiation ongoing between Victoria and the federal government in regards to, for those people who are actually locked down for 5 days, whether the Victorian government comes in and helps to support them along with the federal government, because it is only after a person has lost income for some 7 days. So $375 a week if you've lost between 8 and 20 hours of work, and $600 a week if you have lost up to 20 hours or more. Now, the important part about this, again, is seeking to try and keep employees attached to their employers. And we've already heard some suggestions that employers are starting to let employees go. That's going to be the big issue. And of course, that's the thing that would affect our employment rates as well.
But there were also those very strong job numbers for June too, Ross, the best unemployment rate in more than 10 years, even though the Prime Minister yesterday pretty much said that nothing is exact, almost that they have to work things out on the fly. JobKeeper clearly did work though, right?
Yeah, it did. JobKeeper work. There is no doubt about that. Those numbers showed it to you yesterday. The bounce back in our economy, the bounce back in employment has been strong. Now, that's important for the government because bear in mind that the more people you have in jobs, the fewer people you have on government support, taxpayer support. And so also the government has got people in work paying taxes. That's the key to this. And that's the reason why the government will roll out this support. So that unemployment rate of 4.9% was quite stellar, even though people had lost hours of work in Victoria, in Melbourne, as a result of the previous lockdown there. But the second part about this is also that you've actually seen a situation where you would expect, again, after these lockdowns, for Australia's economy and employment to bounce back. It could well be we end up with an unemployment rate in the low 4s or even with a 3 in front of it. Now, the Treasurer, you've spoken to him earlier today, but here's just a little of what he said about their expectations of employment and where it is right now.
We were anticipating in the budget that the unemployment rate would be 5.5% in the June quarter and around 5% in the June quarter next year. Right now, we've seen the unemployment rate at 4.9%.
So, Pete, here's the interesting part about this. Just worth looking at the number of employed versus unemployed people in Australia, according to this latest data. So what you can see here in Australia, 13.2 million people out of 25 million people, our population, are employed, have got a job, which is the highest on record that Australia has ever seen. At the same time, the unemployed is falling back below 700,000, well below 700,000. So this is partly about closed borders, but it also shows the strength of Australia's economic rebound as well.
Finally, Ross, if you think your super fund is going okay, it's not as good as some. So a piece in the Fin Review this morning reveals the biggest self-managed super fund has $544 million in it, and that 27 have more than 100 million.
Okay, say that again slowly. The biggest super fund in Australia has $544 million in it, right? So the Fin Review did some good work here. They've actually gone out and done a Freedom of Information search of tax office data to discover this. They'd done it previously, but there's now more superannuation funds in Australia that have more than $100 million in it. This is the reason why the government clamped down a couple of years ago on people who have got too much money in their super. Effectively, they start to pay more tax on the income that comes as a result of this. But but it also shows, and these are the averages for you, just to give you some sense of what the ordinary person has in their super fund. This is a 60-year-old's average balance in Australia. So a 60-year-old, remember, that's about the peak of your superannuation, $198,000 for men, $166,000 for women, which, can I tell you, is a long way short of $544 million, Pete.
Ross Greenwood, good to chat as always. We'll talk to you soon.